Did this little baby really kill these 4 men? Kick it! Alright, thanks for clicking on this video. Hope you subscribe, like, and be sure to comment about this video. I'd like to hear your thoughts about hair metal and grunge, both terms that I don't think anybody came out and said, hey, I'm in a hair metal band, and I know nobody came out and said, hey, I'm in a grunge band. It's just terms that the media use to kind of pigeonhole bands and certain sounds, you might say. I read a lot online of people always blaming Kurt Cobain for killing hair metal. Let's see if that's really true. Of course, glam rock, you might say in the 70s in the UK, you had your Slade, your Sweet, your T-Rex. Here in the US, we had the New York Dolls. It was a term to kind of use. These dudes were wearing platform shoes, looking all pretty on stage. It never really broke huge in the 70s, but it was kind of this form of rock that was always around. Kind of laid low in the US. We had our good classic rock era. Boston, Journey, REO, Styx, Aerosmith, things like that. And then all of a sudden rock and roll came back in a different way, back looking, I guess, a little prettier, you might say. And the term hair metal kind of started because all these dudes had this big hair. I even way back in the day tried to grow my hair. My hair would only get to a certain length and then just start growing out with curls. And I never had a good glam rock look. But in '83, this little record called Mental Health by Quiet Riot blew everyone away, started climbing the charts like crazy. Oddly enough, because of a Slade cover, the other tracks on the album besides like the 2 hits really weren't, it wasn't seen like as a great complete album, but it just sold because the youth really wanted to rock a little harder than what we deem now as the classic rock bands. Also in this year, Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil came out, which that really appealed to me and really set my way, starting to really pay attention to the LA scene and the heavy metal bands and all that stuff. So yeah, this album really, you might say, started it all. In '84, an explosion. This is when I think the media was really starting to pay attention to it. MTV was starting to pay attention to it. It was an organic thing that people really started to like it, and then the media said, oh, what's happening over there? Let's exploit it. Instead of the media saying, here's stuff you have to love, this is what you have to like, this is your pop music. So Rat in '84 came out of the cellar. This blew me away. Every track on this record, unlike the Quiet record, every track is awesome, and I was set. I was like, yes, I want to be just like Rat. This album, come on, this exploded. MTV loved these guys. We're not going to take it. I want to rock. And then The Price, the slow song after that, heavy rotation on MTV and MTV Headbangers Ball. You know, they had the big hair and the big look for it all. Motley Crue in '85 came out with Theater of Pain. In '86, you had a lot of heavy metal still, so the prime years for this glam rock hair metal would be '83 to '91. That's why they get a lot of, I guess, credit for killing it, because '91 is when that record came out. But honestly, if you look in the mirror, and if you watch this video, you'll see who really killed hair metal. It was us. So it wasn't that people were blocking the stores and blocking the concerts telling you can't go support hair metal anymore. It just became a little harder to. It wasn't in the mainstream. They were playing smaller clubs. You had to ask the record store for their records now instead of having it prominently displayed. But hey, when I got into punk rock, that was the same thing. You had to like call a friend of a friend who knew where the show was going to happen. You had to order your albums special order or through mail catalogs straight from the little independent album labels. But if you have your heart and soul in it, then you'll keep on supporting it. The problem with hair metal is a lot of the fans were just in it because it was really cool for a while, and then they got out of it. We're the blame for that, not Kurt Cobain. We didn't care about it as much. And I'll give my personal story and let me know, that's kind of how you went too. And for me personally, hair metal was getting way overproduced, oversaturated, overplayed. I didn't want to be like everyone else. Early on, the kids in high school that would make fun of me for listening to heavy metal were now asking me, hey, when's that new Bon Jovi record coming out? I like Metallica too, dude. And it just didn't seem as fun anymore. I went from really enjoying this record to just kind of sort of enjoying this record. I went from really loving seeing Twisted Sister on MTV, yes, to really like, huh, this is the new Twisted Sister record? Again, I went from really loving this, Under Lock and Key, alright. And then they follow it up with this, I don't know. And then, like I said, Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. What a great record. Totally interested in them, totally idolized them, wanted to be evil like they were. And then they were coming out with stuff that was good, but just not as good. I won't even show Theater of Pain because that's a disaster. And even in the lighter side of things, was really interested in this. Had a lot of catchy songs. And then not so much interested in this. All these hair bands had a great heyday, and like all pop culture kind of events, it's going to fade eventually. At the end of that fading, we could have said, no, we still want it. But a lot of people, myself included, started to look at other avenues of rock music. And really, some of the things that planted that seed were early on. In '86, you had Metallica, Master of Puppets. You had Peace Sells. These two albums were huge. And they were telling us, wait a minute, you mean there's good heavy metal out there and it really doesn't have to look like this? It can just be like 4 dudes in blue jeans and t-shirts, which is more how I look when I go to school. And really the seeds, I think, for a lot of people away from the hair bands were planted with these 2 albums right here. Now don't get me wrong, even after seeing Metallica in '86, I was still into the hair metal scene. I love the poppiness and the sing-along choruses. It was really good stuff. This is me, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade kind of era, freshman in high school even, and you know, albums are coming out that are just, you know, a band that gets lumped into the hair metal scene, it really shouldn't, is Tesla. They're just a damn good rock and roll band. And this album came out, it was at '86, and it is unbelievable. Every track is just awesome. And they went on the road with these guys in '87, a little band called Def Leppard, who again got lumped into the hair scene, although they were around prior to all that stuff. So like I said, the hair scene was still appealing to me, but I was also starting to like other stuff, harder stuff. One of the harder bands that I liked around that time was Anthrax. Among the Living was a huge, huge record. Indians came out with the video on MTV. It was just a little harder, you know, and like I said, there's only so much you wanted to do with Poison, singing about Ain't Nothing But a Good Time. You also wanted to get a little angry with Anthrax. I don't think they get the credit that they deserve for kind of pulling people away from the hair scene. But again, like I said, I was still into hair metal, like Killer Dwarfs, this band TNT, a lot of groups that I liked that got lumped into the hair scene. So around '88, '89, I'm finishing up high school. '89 is also, sadly, I lost my grandmother that I was really close to, and I lost my father. So I'm starting to get a little angst, you might say. I'm leaving senior year of high school, entering junior college in fall of '89, and in junior college I'm meeting more people than just the clique I had in high school. So with more people means more influences and more of hearing about groups that these people like. And I'll never forget one of my first classes in junior college. The kid in front of me had like a Slayer patch, a Stormtroopers of Death patch, Anthrax and stuff. We were talking music, and he's like, hey, did you ever hear this band? And he told me about Jane's Addiction. And I was like, aren't they one of those like alternative? I was still trying to fly the flag of heavy metal. I'm like, aren't one of those weird alternative bands? He's like, no, you should check them out. They're really, really good. Oh, I gotta cover these up. Cartoon boobs. And fell in love with this album. Soon after that, you know, Jane's was being talked to as an alternative rock band, alternative heavy metal band. I started liking these guys. Alice in Chains came out with this 1990, and in that year, that's probably the year that killed a lot of heavy metal for me. I went to see the Revolting Cocks, the Skate Nigs, and the Mentors at the Riviera in Chicago, and had more fun, was a little fearful, because good shows back then, you're a little afraid for your life, people were a little weird, stuff was going on, it was a little weird, and so I was a little fearful, and I loved every second of it, and it showed me, you know, I'd seen Warrant in '89, up till then, you know, I'd seen my Bon Jovi, and Rat, and Crew, Wasp, Kiss. I was full of heavy metal experiences, you might say. with a lot of those groups being classified as hair metal. But this just blew me away. And then later on this year, another band that a lot of people will know, but what a show, the Dead Milkmen. They played with Mojo Nixon and I forget who else, also at the Riv in Chicago, place that holds well over 1,000 people, and it was just phenomenal. This show was probably the first show I just saw people jumping off the stage almost every song, and it was like, what the heck is that? That looks way more fun than just standing at some club. You know, when I used to see the hair bands, everyone was like either trying to cruise chicks or spray their hair or just look at the musicians on stage go, I could do that better. I could probably play those licks better. Everyone was willing to sell their soul to fly out to LA and have a big hit album. Where to me this scene seemed more organic. Like when the heavy metal scene first came out, the hair metal scene first came out in the early 80s. This to me seemed more like, wow, these people are really into it. These young kids are really into it. And these groups on stage are just having fun, having the time of their lives. And another record that really set me away from stuff like this, that would lead me to go to stuff like this, is Ministry. I have the album signed up there by Mr. Al Jorgensen. I have the shirt. A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. This just, I don't know if it broke worldwide as much as it did here in Chicago, but man, oh man, oh man, that just new sounds. I was ready. I was like a young animal that just needed food and nutrients from mama or something. I don't know what the hell that means, but I was eager to absorb other things besides the same old, same old. For me, it was the groups themselves. It was the feeling that they kind of lost something along the way. And as I just grew up and became a little more angst-ridden, I didn't want this anymore. But when this came out, it really appealed to me. Now this is 1991 and a new era. The 80s are gone. Let's do something new. Pearl Jam also. 1991, we're just coming up in the scene and exploding. Locally, 91, we had Screechin' Weasel. Perfect punk rock album, one of my favorite albums of all time. My Brain Hurts. We also had in the Chicago area Peg Boy coming out with a perfect record again. Strong Reaction, 91. And also a band in 91 that was local, soon to be worldwide. Smashing Pumpkins came out with Gish. So we had so much stuff for me to jump into that was to me new and fresh. Screechin' Weasel and a band called Sludgeworth let me into the local punk rock scene where there was so much. From that, I was listening to more college and indie rock, and it just seemed more, like I said, real, organic, spoke to me a lot more than this stuff did. There was always time and room for this stuff, but I personally wasn't as interested in it. So I hope this kind of all made sense. I hope the story that I had, maybe same story with you guys. Or maybe some of you, no, you never stopped liking your Poison. That's fine too. Nowadays, you'll hear your Poison and your Nirvana all played on the same classic rock radio because we're all old now. Thanks for watching.